Nothing comes free.
Hello, everyone. Today, I have an inspiring story for you. It's not just for your listening practice, but also to motivate and uplift you. This story is called Nothing Comes Free, and it shows how hard work and determination can transform a life. In a small, peaceful town surrounded by hills, lived a 20-year-old young man named Jake. Jake had big dreams. He wanted to own a chain of restaurants and become a successful entrepreneur. But life wasn't easy. His family struggled financially. His father, Robert, was a mechanic, and his mother, Linda, cleaned houses to support the family. Jake's younger sister, Emily, just 10 years old, admired him like a hero. One cold evening, Jake sat outside his small house, staring at the stars. He whispered to himself, "I want to give my family a better life. But how do I start when we barely have enough to live?" The next day, he shared his dreams with his father, Robert, and said, "Jake, dreams aren't free. If you want something, you have to work for it. Start with what you have, even if it's small." Jake thought deeply. He realized people in his town loved fresh bread, but the nearest bakery was far away. He decided to sell fresh bread locally. There was just one problem. Jake had no money to buy the bread. Taking a leap of faith, he walked miles to visit the owner of a well-known bakery, Mr. Anderson, a grumpy old man who rarely trusted strangers. With confidence, Jake said, "Mr. Anderson, I want to sell your bread in my town, but I don't have money to buy it up front. Can you trust me for 1 week? I'll sell the bread, return your money, and keep a small profit." Mr. Anderson raised an eyebrow. "Why should I trust you, young man?" he asked. Jake replied firmly, "Because I'm determined, and I'll work hard to prove myself." After a long pause, Mr. Anderson said, "All right, I'll give you bread for 1 week. But if you don't return the money, don't come back." Jake was thrilled. Early the next morning, he carried the bread back to his town and set up a small stand near the park. He greeted every passerby with a smile and energy, saying, "Fresh bread, warm and delicious." At first, people hesitated. They didn't know if the bread was good. But Jake offered free samples and soon got his first customer. By the end of the day, he sold all the bread and made a small profit. That evening, he returned to Mr. Anderson and paid him back. The old man nodded and said, "You kept your word. Come back tomorrow." From that day, Jake worked harder than ever. He woke up at 4 a.m., walked to the bakery, carried the bread to his town, and sold it with passion. After 2 months, he saved enough to buy a small cart, making transportation easier. One day, a customer said, "Jake, you're great at selling." Thoughtful. "Why don't you bake your own bread? You'll make more profit." The idea excited Jake, but also scared him. He had never baked anything in his life. This was the moment. Nothing is free. Not success, not knowledge, not growth. If he wanted to succeed, he had to take risks and learn. He couldn't stop thinking about baking. If he learned it, he wouldn't have to depend on Mr. Anderson. The next morning, after making his payment, he asked, "Thoughtful Mr. Anderson, can you teach me how to bake?" The old man frowned, annoyed. "Why should I teach you? It's Charles. If you bake, you won't buy from me anymore." Jake replied, calmly, "You're right, but I'll never forget the man who gave me my first chance. If I succeed, I'll make sure to help your bakery too." Mr. Anderson thought for a moment. "Sighs, all right, but baking isn't easy. It takes time, patience, and hard work. If you're ready, I'll teach you." Jake agreed. Lessons began early the next morning at 3 a.m. Mr. Anderson taught him how to mix flour, knead dough, and bake bread perfectly. At first, Jake struggled. His hands hurt, and the bread turned out too hard or too soft. One day, after another ruined batch, Jake sat down feeling defeated, muttering, "Maybe I'm not good enough for this," he muttered. But then he remembered his father's words, "Dreams aren't free." The next day, he came back more determined than ever. He practiced every step carefully, and slowly his bread improved. Jake was overjoyed. He rented a small oven and began baking at home. His family was amazed by his dedication. Emily helped pack the bread, and Linda made tea while he worked into the night. Soon, Jake started selling cookies and pastries too. People loved his products and said, "Excited, Jake's bread is better than anything we've tasted." But success wasn't simple. One day, a new bakery opened in town, run by a young man named Ethan. His store was large, beautifully decorated, and caught everyone's attention. People grew curious and began buying from Ethan instead. Jake noticed his sales dropping and grew scared. Worried, "What if I lose everything?" he wondered. But instead of giving up, he started improving. He asked his customers, curious, "What do you like about Ethan's shop? What can I do better?" Some said, flatly, "His place looks cleaner." Others said, casually, "His cakes are nicely decorated." Jake took the feedback seriously. He decorated his cart, painted it with bright colors, and started offering samples of his new pastries. He even learned cake decorating by watching tutorials at the library. Slowly, customers started returning. One evening, an elderly woman said, calmly, "I've seen many young men give up when things get tough, but not you. That's why we trust you." Her words gave Jake new strength. Months passed, and his savings grew. He finally rented a small shop. It wasn't as big as Ethan's, but it was cozy and welcoming. He named it Jake's Fresh Bakes. Every morning before sunrise, he baked fresh bread and opened his store with a smile. Emily loved chatting with customers, and Linda managed the finances. But life had one more test for Jake. One stormy night, as he was closing the bakery, he saw smoke coming from the oven area. A small fire had started. He quickly grabbed water and put out the flames. But a lot of his equipment was ruined. The next morning, people gathered around his shop. Some said, "Will Jake be okay?" Others whispered, "This might be the end." Jake felt heartbroken, but not broken. He stood outside and declared, determined, "This is just another challenge. I've faced worse. I'll rise again." He calculated his savings, not enough to replace everything. Fear crept in. But then he remembered. He started with nothing. Instead of giving up, he asked for advice. He met Mr. Anderson and said, "Sir, what would you do if you were me?" Mr. Anderson smiled and said, "You already know what to do. Keep working. Keep believing. People believe in those who believe in themselves." Motivated, Jake began baking again at home, using whatever equipment he had left. He told his customers, firmly, "I won't stop even if I can serve only a little. I'll keep going." People were touched by his courage. Some donated ingredients, others gave money, and many helped clean and repair the shop. Jake realized something powerful. When you help yourself, others will help you too. After months of hard work, Jake reopened his bakery, better and brighter than ever. He added new decorations, introduced cupcakes and muffins, and welcomed everyone with joy. On reopening day, the town's mayor visited and said, proudly, "Jake, you're an inspiration. You've shown us all that with determination, anything is possible." Jake stood in front of the crowd and said, thoughtful, "I want to thank each one of you. You've taught me that nothing in life is free, not success, not love, not respect. Everything must be earned. with hard work, patience, and persistence. Lessons from Jake's story. 1. Dreams aren't free. They require hard work and sacrifice. 2. Failure isn't the end, it's a chance to learn and come back stronger. 3. Help yourself first, and people will be inspired to support you. 4. Never give up. The darkest moments come just before success.